welcome to another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Joanne and LaFlamme.
I'm Chris Costa.
Chris, what would you like to talk about today?
Well, can we talk about how Enterprise calculates ink usage and how we can set up, different ways we can set up an ink material?
Sure, that'd be a great topic. Typically, most cases you would set up ink to calculate by the pound or maybe by the gallon. So we can take a look at that. There are some other options too, though. You might want to set up ink to calculate a click cost. Or if you're doing wide format, you might want to calculate ink based off of the square inches on a piece that you're printing. So those are other options as well.
Okay. All right. If we could take a look at an example, that'd be great.
Sure. Let's kind of start off with some of the things that affect the ink calculation. We could talk about how Enterprise actually calculates the quantity and thereby the price of the ink.
Sure. Okay.
All right. So I'm going to start here in File Maintenance. And I'm going to go into File and then System Settings. And you'll notice in here, there's a default ink coverage. And you'll see that's 335,000. What that number represents is it's the default number of square inches a pound or a gallon, if your measurement's going to be in gallons, of ink will cover. And it is just a default. You're able to, in any particular ink, put in a different number if that ink varies from the default.
Okay.
Okay, and as I said, you put it in, if you want to set up your inks by the gallon, then that number represents the square inches per gallon. If you want to do it by pound, it's square inches per pound.
Okay. Now, what if it's a certain category material that I just want to adjust the whole category? Can I do that too?
You can. So let's go into the materials now. Let me cancel out of here. And let's go into the materials. So, for example, in a sheet stock, if you have certain materials that perhaps take more ink, you do have a reduced ink mileage field here where you can put in a percentage. And that's a reduction in the mileage. So if it's 335,000 and it's a 10% reduction, then it's going to be 335,000 minus 10%, whatever that calculates to be.
Sure.
So just over 300,000. So yes, you can do that by category.
Yep.
Then in the ink itself, let's take a quick look at the ink itself. And we'll look at this 4CP test by mileage. So in here, you see you have an ink coverage field as well, but if you leave that at 0, then that's what's going to make it look at the default settings in system settings. And if you put a number in there, it will look at that. Whatever number you have in there will then get reduced if your category has that percentage on it.
Understood, yeah.
Okay. Another thing we need to look at is this coverage percentage. This comes into play as well. This coverage percentage is a default coverage of the press sheet that's covered in ink. So this is a 4-color process ink. So it represents all 4 colors. So here we're saying for this particular 4-color process ink, our default is that we're covering 60% of the press sheet in ink. So when Enterprise does the calculation, it looks at the size of the press sheet. And so it'll look at the width and the length and do that math to get the square inches, times the number of press sheets. So now it knows how many square inches all the press sheets are. Then times that coverage percentage, because now if you've got whatever number that comes out to, if it's only 60% coverage, then you need 60% of that.
Yeah.
So once you do that math, now you know how many square inches the press run is going to be. And then you divide that by the 335,000 or whatever number's in the ink, and then you know how many pounds or how many gallons of ink you need.
Right. Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
It does, yes. So you can, in that mileage, you can treat it then any measurement you want, whether it's a gallon or a pound.
Correct.
As long as you're consistent with how you set that all up.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then your price would be in that too.
I was going to say, I imagine
Yeah.
the price would also be as we set it up as each gallon or each pound.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Let's just take a quick look at a job using that.
Okay.
So let's go into estimating order entry. We'll edit this estimate using pounds per gallon. And so I just have a simple 12 by 12. So it's a 1 by 1 press sheet just to make the calculation easy. We have our 4-color process with our 60% coverage. And when I hit the calculate button here, So I have 10,000 press sheets that I'm doing. And so therefore I have 10,000 square feet, which if you multiply that, it's 144,000 square inches. If you take that times the 60% and divide that by the 335,000, if you did the math out, you'll see that it's 2.58 pounds of ink.
Okay.
Okay?
That makes sense.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense for the for that methodology. So what about if we wanted to charge the ink on the per side per copy method?
Okay, let's take a look at that. So I'm going to just jump back into standards here and show you how I've got the ink set up for that. So I'm going to go into ink. So when you're going to do a per side per copy, a lot of times since it is like a click cost, you might have a different cost for black than you do for the color. So you could set up two inks, one for the black click, one for the color click.
Right.
And that's what I've done here. So in the black click, what you have to do if you're going to do it as a click cost is check this off to say use per side per copy. You don't need to worry about a coverage percentage or an ink coverage because you're not going by that. And then all you do in here is put in what your click cost is for the black click. And you'd leave it at a per each costing method. Very simple.
Right.
For the color, the same thing, only now you might have a different cost here to reflect the color cost. Now let's go take a look at a job. So let me cancel out of this one. And we'll go down to by click cost here. So this case I'm doing again the 10,000. It's still the same 12 by 12 press sheet. So I've got 10,000 color clicks on the top and then 10,000 black clicks on the bottom. And you can see it pulled in my color click at the 15 cents and my black click at the 6 cents each.
And all you did there was just add those materials. If it was a 4/4, you would need to add in the four clicks,
Correct.
whether they were all color or mix or.
Right, correct. This is doing just one color click. Well, this you could set this up to represent all four colors. This would be 15 cents to mean all, it's a one color click for all four colors.
Okay. Gotcha.
So this is my 15 cents per each, and then my black click I have set up as 6 cents per each.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and then I guess lastly, what if we want to charge the ink in a square inch or square foot?
Okay, that's going to kind of be similar to the per pound per gallon test, so let's take a look at that.
Okay.
So let me edit that one. I'm going to edit the component. Let's first go into standards and go into the ink material and look at the setup. So here again, just like all my others, I have it at a per each. But now here I'm doing 100% coverage, and I'm doing my ink coverage is 144 because there are 144 square inches in a square foot.
Right.
And assuming that I'm covering it 100%, it's because I want to charge by the square inch of the piece.
Right.
So by just setting those two, now I've got my price in here as my per square inch price. So when I hit the calculate button here, I'm doing 10,000 sheets. Actually, I have it in my per square foot price. I did it as per square foot. So I can, I have it as 10,000 impressions, and they're each 1 square foot each. So it's charging $1,000.
Okay. All right, that makes sense too. Any other settings that might affect ink outside of what we talked about here?
The only other setting that we have that could affect ink is on the web side.
Okay.
In a web press, we look at the finished sheet in calculating ink as opposed to the press sheet. We do have a system setting in system settings that you can check off if you want it to work the same way as sheet fed and you want it to look at the press sheet.
Press sheet size. Okay.
And that should be calculate web inks by press sheet. You would set that to yes. And then it will just look at the press sheet size instead of the finished sheet size
Okay.
for the calculation.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Any other questions?
No, I think that was great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
I'm Chris Costa.
Please look forward for more to come.